Thank you, Sandra.
So what I love about Stewart Hobson Middle School, we have something in common with all the other schools here. One is that like we are a DCPS school, so I love that we are like a neighborhood school. We're part of the Eastern feeder pattern, and I think like just being part of that, each of those small communities, like our feeder schools, but then being one of the Eastern middle schools, and then being part of the feeder pattern in Eastern is just a big deal because I think that that just like anchors us all, and it anchors our school in particular in this in the local community where many of our students live. So I think that's like that's just a big deal for me. It's something that's always drawn me to leadership in schools. I think we make a promise at Stewart Hobson that it's a place where students will both learn a lot and have fun. So we try to balance that, and I think that Stewart Hobson and middle school in particular that's a time when you have the opportunity to work with people who, while they're with you, will go from like late childhood, early adolescence to young adulthood before they leave, and that's like an incredibly dynamic moment in their life. And it's really exciting to be front and center and next to them while they go on that journey. And we work really hard to make sure that any doors of opportunity that were open to them when they get to us are still open when they leave, and also hopefully, we have the opportunity to open even more doors for them for the rest of their secondary journey in high school um, in DCPS. So I think that's in a nutshell. Like those are some things that get me really excited about working at Stewart Hobson and working in middle school in particular.
Great. Thanks. I'm going to turn over to Principal Howard.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you all for being here. This is my second year at Jefferson Middle School Academy. I like to tell most people my affiliation with Jefferson is that my wife and her family all went to Jefferson. And then we have three boys who I hope one day will attend Jefferson. And so like my passion in doing the work specifically there is so that I can lottery into Jefferson. My kids do not attend one of the elementary schools. They actually would go to Eric School if they continue their feeder pattern trajectory. And so I do this work not only for my kids, but for the kids who are in my school. I'm really proud to say that this year we have initiated our college prep trajectory, if you will. And so, like, we really are trying to make sure that our students are leaving eighth grade with high school credits already. So, high school credit in world language, high school credit either in algebra. We had a few kids. We will have a few kids this year who will have completed both geometry and algebra. And so just really setting them up to be able to take those higher level courses when they get to high school. We've also, in competing with Eric a little bit, tried to implement some arts programs. So this year we had music in addition to dance and visual arts. And so we're really just trying to be the place where we can really focus on the whole child, not just as a buzzword, but to really prepare them for whatever is coming next. And so I love middle school. I believe it is the place where you either catch kids or lose kids. And so just really hoping to catch them and keep them on the path to be whatever success looks like for them in life. And I really am glad to be here and be here with all of you this evening. So thank you for having me.
Great. Principal Giles?
You're on there.
I'm sorry. I was like, who did she call? Good evening, everyone. I'm Marlon Giles. I'm the sixth grade Academy AP over at Elliott High. And I'm a proud Ward 6 kid through and through. I grew up on Capitol Hill and I attended Capitol Hill Cluster Schools. And I'm very proud to now work as a leader in a school in the community that I grew up in. What makes a good middle school is the amazing experiences that you have, building relationships with your friends and your enemies, navigating those relationships in a safe space where you can have an opportunity to make mistakes and also be taught different skills to not make those same mistakes again. A great middle school for me is a school that really emphasizes academics in a way that makes it fun or engaging, but also provides many opportunities for kids to explore their passions. And so we provide lots of different opportunities for our kids at Elliott High. And again, like just the connection and love really emphasizing community because most of our children live in the community, and this is the community that they will remain in. And so helping them to build those relationships, bonds, connections, and commitments to one another. That to me is what makes a great middle school. I think our school is a great middle school, but I'm sure you're going to ask lots of questions about why, unless you want me to answer now.
You'll have plenty of time.
Okay, thanks.
And then we're gonna turn over Principal Miller, even though he is the high school at Eastern. Again, we know that families, as they think about decisions for their students, they're not just thinking about what's next year, but thinking about the years ahead. And so as Eastern is the culminating feeder school for all of these middle schools, would love to hear from you, Principal Miller, about sort of what does success look like at a high school and particularly at Eastern?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me again this year. I think it's really important that families get to hear a little bit about all the schools ahead of them and in the pipeline in this area. So like the other leaders here, I have a personal and both a family connection to my school. I've lived in this area, right next to Lincoln Park for almost 15 years with my wife. And so going to Eastern every day is just fantastic. In addition, this is the neighborhood my mom grew up in. This is the neighborhood my grandmother grew up in, and beyond. So, there's a lot of meaning behind getting the opportunity to lead at Eastern for me. So it's very, very, very personal. Um, I think, some of the one of the things I love, I've worked at both the middle and high school levels. I've taught at middle school. I've been an administrator at middle school. I've taught at high school. I've been an administrator at high school. And I just love it because it's such a crucial time for our young people. I think most of us on this call, many of our most powerful memories come to us from this time in our lives. They're such formative years. The experiences that we have there are such a huge part of who we are and who we become later on in life. And getting to be a part of that every day pretty much is just a wonderful privilege for all the leaders on this call, I know. I used to work at Stewart Hobson, where Eric's at now. I used to work at Jackson Reed across town. Both of those are great schools. And, I just see the opportunity to really make Eastern into the top choice for families in this area. And I love doing that.
Before we go to the next question, Sandra's going to do a quick poll. So if folks could pay attention to their screen, answer the quick poll, and hit submit.
We just want to get a sense of how folks are at the beginning and what they know about the schools at the beginning of the session, and then we'll do another quick one at the end. And hopefully there's a little bit of learning. We know there'll be a lot of learning, actually.
As folks are reading that. I'm interested in the next question. We're going to go around. Interesting if folks could just share how many students are enrolled in your school, and how do you work with your feeder schools? For most of you, that's either your feeder elementary schools or even how you work with Eastern. For Eastern, how you might work with the middle schools. What are some of the relationships and things you do to work with families in the feeder pattern? And we're going to do the same order. Principal Frazier.
So a couple of things that we do, I mean, as a middle school, right? Like you support the feeder pattern both like up and down, right? So we're trying to work to help Eastern and like keep families excited about the opportunity for that to be their high school. And then we also have the work to do down into our feeder schools to convince, families to stay in their elementary schools and just to stay in this feeder pattern coming into middle school too. So as far as like the downward facing work, like we do a lot of work to invite those families and those students in. So like obviously like working hard on, outreach during open house season. We do a step up day every fall for the 4th and 5th graders in our three feeder schools. So like each school gets their own opportunity to come in and we do a presentation. They talk to some of the students who came from their school who are currently at Stewart Hobson. So they get to see those folks that used to walk their elementary school hallways and hear about the program straight from them. We do a couple activities while they're with us as well. So that's just a way to get them hooked. And we strategically invite the fourth grade students because that's a year, fourth to fifth grade, we know is a time when DCPS loses some students. So we try to get them excited in fourth grade about staying in their elementary school so they can work their parents for that too. That's a big thing we do. We have some performances at our school, so we host them for events, like their kindergarten promotions and fifth grade promotions, or to partner with them on a music showcase, or when we do one of our musical theater productions, we often invite a class or two to participate in those. As far as the upward facing work, we invite Principal Miller and anybody and everybody from Eastern to come speak to our students. So they have the chance to come and speak to the eighth graders as they're, before they're putting their high school applications in. We often will invite seventh graders. We will take groups of students who are really interested in Eastern to go there for the day or for part of the day to see things in real life at Eastern. We helped to organize a couple of the other schools here on this call to have our mandatory middle school fair, high school fairs at Eastern this year rather than trying to host our own. And I think that was great for all three of the campuses on the call because we got most of the high schools to show up, but it also gave Eastern an opportunity to show off a little bit and to convince people why they didn't need to go to any of the other tables in the gym. So I think that's the big work we do. I don't want to take all the things because I know a lot of my colleagues do a lot of the same things with their students. So I'll let them pick it up there.
Same order?
Yeah, same order.
Okay. So some of the things like Eric mentioned that we do, where they call it a step up day, we call it Life of a Trojan. And so we have a dedicated day for all of the elementary feeder schools to come over. We try to do a performance. There's a panel. And then the students have the opportunity to walk around the school, step into some classes, ask a lot of questions. We also have done, of course, the family teacher organization events, going over and just having conversations with families directly, and hearing what they want from their kids' middle school education, hence expansions of our programs. Now we offer world language in all three grades to help support that Shirley Chisholm feeder pattern for the students who are in the immersion program. We have the capacity to probably get up to 500 students over the next few years. But right now we're enrolling. Our goal, I think, for this upcoming year is 430 students. And so similar sizes, I believe, as it relates to the campuses for middle school. Some of the other things that we've done, particularly with the sixth grade academy model, is attend the promotion ceremonies of the elementary schools and just really help ramp up like coming to Jefferson if some of the students have opted in and already completed their paperwork, going over there and just kind of making it a big deal that they'll be coming to Jefferson has been really cool. And then just some of the opportunities with sports for kids to come over and integrate themselves early on has been very beneficial for us as it relates to the continued enrollment for the feeder pattern.
And to add on, because so many of that we do is so much of the same. You asked about the size of the school. We're currently at about 460. Our projected numbers for next year just at 500. It's exciting because we've been growing steady for the last couple of about 8 years now. To support the feeder pattern and to get children and families interested in Elliott High, we do buddy days. So we do invite schools to come over. They come over and they can spend the day, a couple of hours, like the morning, with the school. During those buddy days, we really like to try to expose them to our International Baccalaureate program. So we talk about what that is. They may do some type of inquiry, ideas or questions or problems. They can kind of see what kind of thinking that they will be exposed to at Elliott High. And during those buddy days, they do student panels. They get to meet the students that are there. And we try to also expose them to our inner core. So we have core classes with the IB program, and then inner core, all the arts classes, what some people would call electives. And so we try to get them exposure to that because we have a pretty robust program. Principal Howard spoke about the promotional programs. I want to shout out Chisholm. They had an elementary signing day, which was so exciting. And so we went, and like the elementary school kids, they signed off on what schools they went to, and it was just such a big deal. So it's really nice to see the feeder pattern moving up, and everyone supporting the matriculation of students. And again, we also do support our kids in moving forward to Eastern, because our school is an IB program, and Eastern also has an IB program. And so we do some partnerships with their program, having our children to go over, visit the IB program. We currently still have students who are going to Eastern for geometry. So we really do try to support the feeder pattern and really get our children, our community in our school.
Yeah, just thank you. Just to build on that, so Eastern, we have 914 students currently, which makes us right in the middle in terms of size of high schools for DC public schools. I think we're the fourth largest. However, we are the fastest growing, aside from the new high school, MacArthur, which is adding a new grade level each year. We are the fastest growing high school, growing each of the last 3 years. I think we've grown around 27% over those 3 years, from about 720 to 914, 915. So we work extensively, I think, as you heard from with each of these middle schools, and actually Capitol Montessori as well, and Brown, to really strengthen that feeder pattern and help demystify high school for kids, because I think for a lot of them it's a mystery. What do we do in this big building with all these people? And as we get them ready to go on to college or a nice career. So we love to bring them to our school as much as possible. As AP Giles mentioned, we even have Elliott Hines students coming to Eastern every other day to take geometry with our class. So we look for those opportunities. We have them with our band, our other performances, our cheer, our dance teams, our esports. They all have members from middle schools on them that are in our feeder pattern. And what we see is those students really feel welcome and comfortable once they're here. So that's been our strategy. We do visitation days with each of our feeder schools. I know I actually am sending emails to several people on this call this week to set those up before we get to the April deadline for folks to decide on the lottery. Because we really believe that Eastern has a lot to offer, and when parents and students actually come inside, they see it. Almost 100% of the time, when folks come and they visit Eastern for the first time, they say, "Wow, I didn't know you had this," and so that's exciting, and it just motivates us to get the students from our feeder schools into the building and let them see what we have.
All right. I know parents are interested in hearing a little bit about the courses. What are they learning? What are kids engaging in the classroom? So we're going to spend the next couple minutes with a couple questions focused on kind of academics, curriculum, those kinds of things. And then we'll spend a few minutes talking about extracurricular activities, other fun stuff as part of the school offerings. So, and then we will have time for questions. So my first question gets at kind of the academic rigor, the curriculum courses that you all offer. And if you could each just talk a little bit about how you meet the needs of students, whether they're coming in at higher end of abilities and needing to excel, or whether they're coming in needing a little bit more support. How do you approach the varying needs of students as they enter your school in sixth grade, and then for Principal Miller ninth?
So I think when we think about like how we meet diverse needs, like that's a very real thing for every single teacher and educator in our school. Just like if we look at most measures of student performance at Stewart Hobson, like the incoming ability levels really run the gamut with pretty equal distribution across different performance levels on whatever the assessment is, whether it's like a iReady exam in math or end of year CAPE test for students. So that's both an opportunity and a challenge, I think, for educators. It means that in classrooms throughout the day, like teachers have that range of ability levels, looking at them 5 periods a day, and expecting the teachers to make adjustments and plans to meet those diverse needs. And it means that the macro level that we have to plan for that in the student schedule, to allow for courses and supports and learning opportunities to meet students where they are, and to push them. And one of the things that we hold really important is like making sure that every student feels like the right balance of challenge and support throughout all of their learning opportunities. So we in literacy, we use intervention platforms that we use one program called Reading Plus, and that works. All students use that, and that challenges them to build fluency and comprehension. And it's an adaptive program that just tailors the challenge to where they are. We have a similar program in math called Zern. So those are things that all students have access to, and that's like most of their homework is on one of those two platforms because it's individualizing and they don't need much direct support or instruction. In their classes, all of our, except for math, like all of our students are in the same course. If you looked at it in Aspen, like there aren't really honors courses or anything like that in science, social studies, and English. In math, students in middle school can accelerate, right? DCPS has the goal of getting as many students to and through algebra as possible before they go to high school. So I know that's something that all of the middle schools here are working on. And we are very proud that this year about a third of our eighth graders are in an algebra class, meaning they've already completed Math 8 earlier in middle school, and they're going to have that algebra credit when they get to Eastern in a few months. And what we really are proud of with the algebra work that we're doing is we've been increasing the number of students who are taking the course every year the last few years, and it hasn't been compromising the overall outcome. So last year, 75% or better of the students who took algebra got a 3 or better on the CAPE exam, which means that they were at or approaching proficiency. So not only are they showing up at high school with the credit and the CAPE test under their belt, but they're also showing up with like the skills and the competencies that they need to thrive in geometry and algebra 2 and other courses. So like that's one end of the math spectrum. The other is we have students who get an extra period a day of intervention or acceleration if they need that smaller group support, usually with a special education teacher, but not necessarily because they have an IEP, just to access the tier 1 content that they're seeing in class every day. And what we do at Stewart is the person who delivers that is also the co-teacher who will show up in their math class. So they'll see that person in their core class, and then they'll go to them for intervention later on in the day. We have a similar structure in English where we have special educators who do intervention for general education students and students with IEPs. All the students have access to Reading Plus. We also have a challenge that is more popular than I would have guessed when I first came to Stewart. We call it the 40 book challenge, and we have a very surprising number of students who take that on every year and who succeed at it. So the librarian challenges them to read 40 books across genres and around their grade level before the end of the school year, which is 10 books a term, which is pretty aggressive for considering all the other work that they have to do. So that's kind of the big approach to how we meet needs, particularly in math and literacy across all the classes.
Similar to Eric, we have a built-in intervention schedule. We call it Win Block What I Need. And so in addition to students taking their tier 1 math and ELA, based on where their academic data show, they are either in an intervention English block or in an intervention math block, based on being 2 or more grade levels behind. This year, we bought into Achieve 3000 for the entire school, which is a reading intervention and enrichment platform for students. And so we have a challenge going on as well. And so the goal is to complete 40 lessons for the year at a percentage of 75 or higher. And then those students will participate in a field trip right before spring break. So we're looking forward to that. I think some of the kids are looking forward to it as well. In addition to Zern, we also have used iReady as a homework platform in alignment with what we're doing in the district. We have students who, as I mentioned before, have taken algebra as well as geometry. We have 2 students currently in geometry this year. I think we had 2 students last year who were also in geometry. During the WIN block time is when we also have our Spanish humanities class. So students who come in with some level of proficiency in Spanish, but may not be an ESL learner, might have come from a Chisholm or another dual language school. They have the opportunity to take the Spanish humanities in addition to Spanish A and B. So they can leave with up to a credit and a half in a world language. And then we have, it's on the book as advanced English. It's more of a writing course for our students. So students who are demonstrating proficiency in English and in math, but may not have had the Spanish language background, are enrolled in the advanced English course. And so they're doing some more creative writing and just some reading that they otherwise would not do, in order to both push them in their in their reading skills, but also building that enjoyment and love of reading. Next year in our elective courses, we're hoping to diversify that a little bit, where this year was an introduction to music. Next year we want to see a beginning and an intermediate band based on what students came in with. And same is true with our dance class, because we'll have had dance for 3 years next year. And so we started a step team, and it's loving to see how that is coming to life. They'll be showcased during the Cherry Blossom Festival, if I'm not mistaken. So looking forward to seeing how we can provide both enrichment as well as the academics to students who are interested, and then those who need the additional support and push.
So I'm really excited about the academics at our school. One of the things that we do for our math program is that all of our students coming in 6th grade, they are all in accelerated math. So we can accelerate our students to move into those algebra and geometry classes if they're ready for those classes. In 6th grade, we're so committed to getting our 6th graders on grade level by the time they finish that we have actually 2 classes. We have very small classes for our math classes. It's about no more than 16, 15 kids in the class. We do run the modern classroom model, which an innovator from Eastern created. And what that means is that really students are moving at their own pace. The teachers spend majority of their class periods pulling small groups, individual instructions with students. And it's proven to be really beneficial because we see kids growing in every single category, from the lowest learners to the highest learners. And so children really get opportunities to excel at their rate in a very small class. And so that is the commitment that we made with staffing for math. And so from that, students can, once they get into 7th grade, students can take either straight 7th grade math, or they can actually elect into 8th grade. And not elect in, they have to prove the work, they have to do summer work, and then they have to test in to see if they're prepared for 8th grade math. After 7th grade, kids can either do 7th or 8th grade math, but after 7th grade, they can go to straight 8th grade math. Some children may already be in algebra, and some children may have taken algebra in 7th grade and ready for geometry in 8th grade. And so we have really tried to provide many opportunities for our children to accelerate at their pace, because again, we do have kids coming at varying levels. So we really look to accelerate with equity. So we also have a very clear lens on what equity looks like in our schools to ensure that the achievement of all children in all socioeconomic backgrounds, demographics are shown in every one of those accelerated classes. For reading, we're an international baccalaureate school. With that, a lot of our units are not DCPS units. They're units that our teachers are writing on their own, and they follow the Common Core state standards. But we really do try to move the literature that our students read to be more reflective of who they are, the community that they're in, the experiences that they're having. in the world around them as an international school. So we want to expose them to different cultures. And so you'll see that to increase student interest, our students are reading different kinds of books, different kinds of texts, and often things that the teachers are interested in teaching. And so it's a little bit more fun for the teachers and more engaging for the kids. And so, and you'll see a lot of new units for ELA and what you may call social studies, we call individuals and societies. And so our individuals and societies classes, also they're creating their own units outside of DCPS. They do follow a Common Core state standards, but it really is about student engagement and what we want, what we see from our students, and like, oh, we think this would be a fun activity, or this will be a fun unit, or this will be engaging for students. And all of the units end with GRASP, which are final projects that kind of bring in all of the learning from the unit, and it gives kids to really show what they've learned in a different way. Let me see. We also we have the academy model, which helps to support all of the children. So in our academy model, we started with the 6th grade academy, which was the DCPS initiative, but we've moved this year to a 7th grade academy and 8th grade academy, so that students are basically not in school within a school, but one administrator, one social worker, one group of teachers who are working with one group of children, and we get to know those children pretty intimately. And we have weekly kid talks, as every other school has, where we can discuss our particular children, from what they're like in the hallways to the cafeteria to the gym to every single one of their classes, and really aim to support each one of those children. So that's what we do to deal with some of the things that we do to really deal with the different needs of all of our kids.
So at Eastern, we do a lot of similar things to build off what the great work that they're doing at each of these middle schools. Particularly, AP Giles mentioned that academy model where each grade level has their own set of adults that are consistently working with those students. And at Eastern, after ninth grade, the administrators that you work with, the counselors that you're working with, the social worker, they all move up with you. So the assistant principal you have in 10th grade will be the same in 11th, will be the same in 12th, and congratulating you on the stage at graduation. So we love that because it really helps us to get to know our students and our families. We place a huge value on building strong connections with our students, creating a strong sense of belonging at Eastern. That if you've ever spoken to an Eastern graduate, they'll probably talk your ear off about how proud they are. That's real. They're very very well connected to the school, and what that allows us to do is to challenge the kids in ways that we couldn't otherwise. Once you have that connection with a young adult, they will work harder for you. They will do things for you that they just wouldn't do otherwise. So that's one of the ways that we get to differentiate, along with a lot of the other things that folks said. We have a huge range of courses. We have 5 different pathways, including kind of our college prep pathway with the IB and the EPIC program. We also have our IT Academy and our NAF Academy of Sciences. We have a leadership pathway, and we also have an arts pathway. So we try to differentiate our offerings. We have over 300 different courses that we offer at Eastern, so students can really choose what their passions are, especially after that 9th grade year when they get a lot of the foundational stuff out of the way. They can really start to hone in on something that they're interested in and see if this is something that they want to continue on in college with or make a career out of. So that's what we're really geared towards doing. And then in the classroom, a lot of the other leaders have spoken to this, but we have different technology that allows us to individualize the education experience in ways that I didn't have when I was going to school in the 80s and the 90s. We just are so much better at individualizing education now. AP Giles mentioned, the Modern Classroom Project does this. It allows kids who are getting things really fast to move quickly and move forward, and learn new skills, while other students who may be learning at a little bit slower rate for a specific concept or skill, they're going to get extra attention as well, because the model allows for that. So we try to individualize as much as possible. We're this year we're very focused on a lot of the new technology that's incorporating AI technology to differentiate our plans and make sure that we're pushing every child in every class period. As AP Giles mentioned, equity is at the forefront of what we do. We need to make sure that we are pushing every single child to be their best. And you can't do that unless you're differentiating well, and individualizing their experience as much as possible.
We do have a question in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and voice that over. We have Eric says, great to hear about the student academic programs. And if there's a time, can principals briefly talk about how the performance of teachers are assessed and what resources are provided to support them to be the best and professional development programs offered to them? So if folks could just speak a little bit to how, how you evaluate and support teachers, and your PD approach. We'll start with the same order.
So at Stewart Hobson, we, as far as like evaluating teachers, like all the other schools here, we use DCPS's impact system, and that's a formal evaluation tool that's used for teachers. Typically, teachers get 2 formal classroom observations a school year, and then part of their annual score also is smaller weights, but on like student surveys. So there's an annual student survey of the teachers, in that like the students give feedback about everything from like classroom management to how much they care about them or how much they perceive the teacher cares, and then to things like how challenged they feel. And then they get another score for their commitment to school community, so the things that they do outside of classroom instruction to support the school community and our key initiatives. So that's like the formal evaluation. We historically, or recently at least, Stewart Hobson has not had a lot of excess instructional support staff, meaning like coaches, TLIs, like non-instructional positions. So almost all of our teachers are teaching full-time. And so much of the support at our school falls to a part-time math coach and then our 3 assistant principals, or any training and professional learning that the teachers get from DCPS. I believe there are 3 or 4 district PD days during the school year, plus another day and a half that teachers get during pre-service week. So it feels like every month and a half or so, the teachers are engaging with DCPS and district leaders and content specialists for professional development around district initiatives. And then at our school, like the assistant principals and I are responsible for continuing to follow up on that development and on those initiatives to push people with like key instructional routines. I do know that we have one of the skinniest coaching models of anybody on the call, so I'd love to hear from my colleagues about how they're doing that good work with coaches and TLIs.
Not that much. I actually also use my assistant principals for a lot of the coaching work, particularly because our assistant principals are the evaluators of teachers. And it goes a little bit further. We do have one instructional coach who this year was charged with supporting our inner core teachers, because typically those teachers don't get the development that we would like them to get. So working both with our inner core teacher as well as some of our newer teachers, we had a relatively new teaching staff. So being able to provide them some of that early pedagogical support in their classrooms has been key with having an instructional coach. And then with the district focus just being on math, we have a math TLI. And so in addition to teaching our advanced math courses as well as an algebra class, she also is supporting teachers on the day-to-day classroom, also pushing in to provide intervention support. So doing that modeling in the moment for teachers has been how our staff has been supported. Not sure if it'll look the exact same way next year, because we want to try to build in more teachers while still maximizing the support that teachers are getting in the classroom. So interested to hear what other people are doing, especially while we're in budget season and figuring out that planning.
Our teachers participate in content level collaborative planning weekly. They have collaborative planning by content. And so you'll see in those classes and those opportunities for teachers is that they're looking over their classwork, their lessons, their grading plans, they're supporting one another to ensure that their work is aligned to the standards or to the expectation of the lesson, that the rigor is there. So the teachers really work collaboratively weekly around, we really focused on planning. You know, teachers always are begging for time, but we also are responsible to ensure that teachers are also continuing to develop and grow and meet the expectations that the school has set around what the academics should look like in our school. And so, again, we have every year kind of changed what we're doing or refined what we're doing so that we are finding ways that we can collaborate, but also support teachers to meet the expectations and actually to do their jobs in a more efficient and effective way without sounding arrogant. I feel like that may have sounded arrogant, like they didn't know what they were doing. I really find that collaborative work really helps us to be better. And so we really try to create spaces where they're collaborating and not just listening to someone tell them what they need to do differently. And so we actually just had a meeting with the team and they wanted to we want to share our best practices. Like we want to talk to one another. And so they're not complaining about the time, but they want to spend the time how they feel best. And so we listen to what they want, what teachers are saying that they need, and we try to create spaces that meet both needs. In addition to that, they can elect in to coaching. So we do have a coach and we do have an IB coordinator, and both of them have teams that they are responsible for coaching. And so we usually, first year teachers always have to do coaching so that they can get the pedagogical support, the DCPS support, all those things. But other teachers can elect into coaching for different needs that they may have. Again, our staff meetings monthly also usually focus in around data so that teachers can reflect on data and work on their instruction around data. So we really do. We also, over the summer, we do encourage all of our teachers to get IB trained. It's part of being an IB school. They have to participate in some IB training. And so I want to say maybe 100% of our returning teachers have at least level 1 IB training. And so we're looking to get all of our teachers to level training for IB. But yeah, that's what we do support. And we do all the other evaluations and feedback and supports regularly with the teachers.
Yeah, so at Eastern, the evaluation is the same, I think, across the board. What might be a little different for us, we, similar to A.B. Giles at Elliott Hine, we pay and send our teachers to IB training over the summer. We also send our teachers to get trained on the Modern Classrooms project and that way and style of teaching. We also have an internal system where every Monday morning, teachers within the building can get kind of extra credit, if you will, on their evaluation to lead a PD for their fellow teachers. It's optional, but we found that this is a great vehicle for us to really spread the great knowledge that our veteran teachers have. We're very blessed at Eastern. We have over 50% of our teachers have taught for more than 10 years. So we have a very senior and experienced teaching staff, and just sharing that knowledge. There's so much to learn from those experiences. We also, I would say, we're fortunate as a bigger school, we're able to have both instructional coaches and then TLIs or teacher leaders who are half-time teachers and half-time coaches. For nearly every major subject area, we have a coach. So in addition to the assistant principals who are leading those subject areas, we have a coach who then can meet with the teachers one-on-one, observe their teaching, give them feedback over, a 6 or a 9 week cycle, and really, hone in on what that teacher needs to take it to the next level, whether they're a beginning teacher or whether they're a veteran looking to learn something new. We try to get after it that way. So there's always more things to learn. The kids are always changing, and we got to do our best to stay ahead of that and keep them learning at a high rate.
We are already running out of time, which seems like we just started. But before we go to our last question, there was a question in the chat about Spanish and the continuity for any students that are taking Spanish in 5th grade. I know a couple of you mentioned it, offering foreign language. If we do a quick round of like who offers foreign language, what language that is, and is there an opportunity for folks to continue Spanish from 5th to 6th grade?
We offer Spanish. Typically, we offer it in 7th and 8th grade so that students get 2 consecutive years of the language, which also makes them eligible to earn the credit for high school before they get there. So if they take the class in 6th grade, we can't count that towards the high school credit that they're eligible for when they take it in 7th and 8th. And because we don't serve a dual language program, I don't think we get quite as many requests as Principal Howard might for that continuity. So I understand that at other schools the situation is different. When we do get it, we offer that rationale, and we will not prevent a 6th grader from taking Spanish, but like our general plan is to offer it in 7th and 8th grade for the high school credit. And Spanish is the only language we've been offering the last 7, 8, 10 school years, as long as I've been at Stewart-Hobson.
Yeah, so this is the first year that we were able to offer 6th grade Spanish, like as an introductory level course. Last year, for students who had come from an immersion program, were essentially just dumped into 7th grade Spanish. So 6th graders were taking 7th grade Spanish and then would take in 8th grade, but wanting to really have a clear pathway. And so we now offer Spanish humanities. So students are coming in and able to just like read. It's like a literature course for Spanish for students. So we have a clear path to get them from 6th grade to 8th grade with continuity of the language, so that by the time that they get to high school, if they're taking Spanish 2 or Spanish 3 on up through the advanced level courses, there's an opportunity there. Currently, we only offer Spanish as well.
As an IB program, we have to offer 2 languages. So we have Spanish and French. So when our children came to us from Chisholm, it was our first chance of saying like, wait, what do you mean you were an emergent program? Like that wasn't even a situation for us before. So this year kind of put us into a challenge of like, what do we do with students who don't need an introductory 6th grade? Because our 6th graders take a half a year of Spanish and a half a year of French. They get to taste the language. And then they get to select into which language track they want to take for 7th and 8th grade. But when you have children who are coming from Chisholm who've been in the immersion program, the only benefit is that they get to experience French for half the year. And so I'll just be honest, for those children, it's an opportunity for us to mitigate and figure out what we are going to do to accommodate that. Just know for any Chisholm child who does come, they will get a half a year French and a half a year Spanish. What the half a year Spanish looks like, we don't know, because your child may say, hey, I want to do French from now on. And we do believe in allowing your children to make that choice. But that is a challenge that we have on how we're going to support our students. And that is a challenge that we will figure out. But again, our kids take a language every year. So every year they take 6th grade is French or Spanish, and then they select in, and then they take that language for 7th and 8th grade.
So Eastern, we benefit from our size. Again, we are able to offer 3 languages. We offer Spanish all the way from Spanish 1 up through Spanish 3, and then IB Spanish for 2 years, which is a 2-year course. And IB, you can actually take it if you're really fluent. You can take it for native speakers as well. So We do that for Spanish. We also have French, and we have Mandarin Chinese. For all three of those, go all the way up through graduation and through our highest levels of IB if the students are ready to take that.
Great. Well, we are already at time. We didn't get to all of the questions, but I do encourage both our families and parents who are on the call to, I'm sure you've already done so much more research, but definitely encourage you to reach out to the school, find out when they're doing the buddy days or these programs. I'm sure that the principals and their staff are available for any questions that didn't get answered here. So definitely encourage you to continue to learn more about these schools. And I want to, before turning over to Suzanne, who will close us out, just definitely want to thank everybody for being on tonight. And middle schools, I have 4 kids. One already went through middle school. One is currently middle school. They're tough years. Middle school is not easy. And so everything you all are doing sounds amazing for all these kids that are going through not just academic changes, but emotional changes at the same time. It's a lot. And so just want to give a shout out to everybody and all of our school leaders on the call for the great work that they do every day. And with that, I'm going to turn over to Suzanne to close us out.
Well, I want to thank you,
Oh,
Claudia, for being a wonderful moderator for this evening. And I want to thank everyone who called in for this discussion tonight. We really appreciate your willingness to be open and to listen to what our neighborhood middle schools have to offer. We think they're great. And I think going inside and seeing them is really the best way to experience them. And I hope that this is, giving you the incentive you need if you haven't already been to your neighborhood middle school to do it. And I also just want to thank the principals. I know it's late. I know you've had a long day. And Sandra has put up one ending poll